Hi, I'm Adam C and welcome to my 350Z at the PistonHeads Sunday Service at the British Motor Museum. We'll do a tour in a bit. Let's capture some arrivals first.
This is actually the second Clio RS that's pulled in. This is the phase 1. We had a phase 2 in liquid yellow. Follow me in. Shame they're not parking with each other. What is this arriving? Slight Max Power vibes about it. Cavalier, look at the twin pipes on the back. Our first French fancy is this Renault Aventime in purple. Liquid yellow's definitely a theme today. Megane RS has joined the combo of Clio RS and Clio V6 over there. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the ride height on the Mark IV MX-5. Bit of camber on that, can't work out if it's track setup or for the scene. Now that all the cars have turned up, we can have a look around at the ones that we missed, like a Ferrari 599 GTB. Got a pair of legends here. Honda NSX next door to the Aston Martin Vantage. Also a little Easter egg on the Clio V6. I can't believe the values on these. 77.5 grand for this on the PistonHeads Classifieds. I think one of the highlights is this boosted Cavalier. The bonnet was up earlier, had a little look at the engine, and look, the wheels this side, take a note, take a look, remember them, because around the other side it's a bit indecisive. It's got a different pair of wheels. He says he couldn't decide which ones he preferred, so he's got both. And around the rear, another look at the twin pipes on the Cavalier. Loving the retro branding on the rear screen as well. What is that I can hear? Oh my god, it's an AC! Oh, it's an AC Ace from the 90s. Now these got Mustang running gear. I'm going to have to head up there. Oh, it is already drawing a crowd. The AC Ace. Now this one's got a removable hardtop on it, and you can see evidence of some of its era. And here is the front fascia of this very rare legend of a car, a genuine AC back in the 90s when they were trying to revitalise the brand. Apparently this one is one of 3 supercharged variants and is the development car. I've been seeing a lot of Temuras this year, Evo 9, yes I know. They are, I think, very desirable future classics. It was a replacement for the Chimera and the Griffith with their own straight 6 in it. And I think they look amazing, and there is the Evo 9 for you to gawp at as well. Also we have that French delight of the Aventine over there. We've got the Alpine over here, the GTA V6 Turbo. But going back to my car, I've got an RX-8 next door. Obviously that is the car that I replaced with this. And also inside the boot I've got a few little gifts. First of all, some guests of PistonHeads gave us some McLaren t-shirts to wear. They had a boot full in their TVR, and Y-Food has given me a box I'm going to have to open one-handed. Okay. Inside there is a collection of British vehicles. It's the British Motor Museum, not meaning it's a museum in Britain, it's a museum of British cars, and there's a car in there that looks like it would fit in the Fallout universe. Now Y-Food has sponsored this video with their new Fallout inspired drinks, limited editions that you can get in the video's description. So see if you can spot which car I'm talking about when we go into the museum later. But look, you've got Smooth Vanilla, we have Classic Choco, and we've got Fresh Berry, all with their individual characters from the Fallout series. So obviously there's the Ghoul. Cold Brew Coffee has the non-Ghoul version of him. I can't remember his name. There's his dog. There's a bit of a clue. I'm going to have Happy Banana flavour. It's yellow, it matches the Nissan, and it matches the car that we're going to subsequently find inside the museum. So it's got all the vitamins and minerals that you need for a full meal, 30 grams of protein, no added sugar, and is the best substitute for an entire meal in this bottle. It's my breakfast today, but can be lunch and it can be dinner, even if you live in a vault. So use my code in the video's description to get 10% off the limited edition Fallout range of flavours of Y-Food. We've got a decent pair of coupes, the 928 next door to the Mazda RX-7 FD. This one's got the infamous Pasha interior, checkboard pattern. Oh yes queen. In fact, are they... No, that's not curved. And there's a little nick. Oh, maybe a little bit. Yeah, I get that. I wish I had a brick on me. I'd have added weight, and just wheel wobble would be uncanny. So we're right next door to Jaguar Land Rover. They're just behind us. They've got a big test runway over there, and the Motor Museum has been created to keep a lot of British car history alive, and that's what we're going to tour now, starting off with a wireframe Range Rover Evoque. I presume it's 1-to-1 scale. It just feels a little bit smaller. and I'm not allowed to climb inside, but I really do want to pretend that I am. There you go. You are now the passenger of the wireframe Evoque. And these chaps over here, they're waiting for the collection centre to open. That's a very special building. That'll be in a separate video, so make sure you hit that bell when you subscribe to be notified for when that one goes live. Let's have a look inside the museum. No, I don't think we're not allowed. This is for providing. We could wheel wobble the hell out of that car, but I don't think it's fair. So welcome to half of a Lotus Evija hypercar. Obviously this is their fully electric hypercar, and this has been purpose made to show exactly the technology involved, the suspension and the carbon fibre shell of the Evija. You've got gold on one side and then camouflage wrap on the other. Now of course Ford is an American manufacturer, but they have the British branch of Ford that provided cars such as the RS200, Sierras, Fiestas and Focuses on display as well. This Fiesta was their last car to be built in their Dagenham factory and has been signed by everyone involved in the Mark IV Fiesta project. But welcome to the main bulk of the museum and an indication of the types of cars that I am showing you. I love prototype and concept vehicles, and we can go into a little bit of detail about some of these cars, but we're going to start with a brand semi-close to my heart, MG, with their RDX60 prototype. So MG Rover were dropped by BMW and needed some more success with their new model. So this was their last chance saloon based on the underpinnings of the Rover 75, and it was only a concept vehicle hoping to bring the brand back. Obviously you don't recognize this car because it was never seen on the roads. TWR is actually engaged to help get the prototype built, but in 2003 TWR actually went into administration, which sounded the death to the project of the RDX60 in 2002. It's got a V6, 2.5 litre with 117 horsepower, so it wasn't going to break any speed records, but was a family estate car with almost coupe styling, with lines that remind me of the Renault Aventine we saw earlier. And this little treat in the middle is Rover's attempts to revitalise the Alvis brand. Now, they took over the Alvis name and thought they'd make this sporty sedan with a mid-mounted Rover V8, and you can see the twin SU carburetors sticking out of that bubble, slightly offset at the rear of the car. In the middle, it's got a rear boot as well. Unfortunately, this is only a one-off. It didn't make production, but it's what could have been the next generation of Alvis, bringing back the brand's name. And then we go to Vauxhall, another classically British manufacturer with a very 70s styled futuristic concept car, the SRV. Look how far back the seats are, the leather reclined seats. It's actually a four-seater. This was purely a concept vehicle from Vauxhall, never intended for production, but was based on contemporary Le Mans races at the time, but could fit 4 adults inside. So pedals and steering column adjusted so that the driver sits in a fixed seated position to allow that room for the rear passengers as well. And the instrument panel was set into the driver's side door, so I don't know if we can see that control panel there. That is on the door on the driver's side of the car. So it was meant to have a transverse 2.3 litre slant 4 twin turbo engine. But it's been made up of fiberglass, that engine. It's not a real engine there, you can see. And from the conceptual brilliance of that Vauxhall, we go to something very different. This is the Road Rover. So it was meant to be positioned between Rovers and Land Rovers, very much like the Range Rover, but this was before the Range Rover. So more like a standard car, but retaining the cross-country abilities of a Land Rover, but they abandoned it in '59, but later used it to inspire the Range Rover. This is actually the last survivor of the Road Rover, so very important car, only a 2-door but with 4 seats inside, and that classic Rover logo there. Now we're going around to another stunning concept, once again from Vauxhall. This is the Vauxhall XVR concept. XVR stands for Experimental Vauxhall Research, and this is the only survivor of 3 of them that were made as a fully functional example with split windscreen in that, inspired by a Chevrolet Mako Shark 2 concept. And another design element of it, it's got gull-wing doors. You can kind of tell the doors are massive and they take one side of the windscreen with them, so the windscreen won't stay in place when you get in the car because it
curves all the way around to the side of the car. It's also got a slant 4-cylinder engine, 1.6 with only 74 brake horsepower. Now I love stuff like this. It looks to be just your standard Triumph TR7. It still houses a Rover V8, but this was the Triumph Lynx concept, a fastback TR7 design. So very, very different around the rear, just with that very recognisable front end. But quite rightly on a pedestal, this is the MG EXE concept. In 1985, this is meant to be a new direction for the MG brand, and actually used Austin Metro 6R4 underpinning. So it's got the mid-mounted V6 from the Metro and its all-wheel drive system. And this car was designed by the guy that went on to design the MGF. Obviously in 1985, this was the direction that they thought they could go with the MG brand. It was designed to be both a road car and for competition use as well. But it's a 3-litre V6 with 250 horsepower in road form, but can be tuned up to 400 for when used in a competition. Unfortunately, again, was only a concept car, but I love concepts. Welcome back to another Rover. This is the T3 gas turbine base unit from 1955. This was a gas turbine project by Rover, which stemmed from work on Whittle jet engines during World War II. It was their third turbine car and the first to be entirely built from the ground up. This is a Rover and BRM Le Mans car that is gas turbine powered as well. And they used a widened BRM Grand Prix car chassis, so Formula 1 car effectively as the chassis. It's been widened to suit the body of this Le Mans racer. And it was entered in the Le Mans 24-hour race in 1963, raced unofficial as number 0, and it came 8th. And it gained the prize for the first ever gas turbine car to be able to finish the Le Mans race. Top speed of 142 on the Mulsanne Straight, powered by a gas turbine. And look at the interior. You got suede, like, I don't know, an old man's trousers all over it. The dashboard as well. But welcome to Jag. With Jaguar Land Rover just next door, it's very fitting and appropriate that they have a display of Jaguars, including the Jaguar C-Type from 1953, the R1 Formula 1 car from the year 2000, and then on to a more modern Formula E car. But even this car is 9 years old. 2017 this Formula E car was raced. And then we've got the Jaguar S-Type diesel race car next door to the Broadspeed XJC. This is a racing car with a V12. Jaguar actually disappeared as a name in the 70s when they reorganised British Leyland. So in 1973 there was no Jaguar. So this was the Broadspeed XJC Racing Coupe. So Ralph Broad of Broadspeed was chosen to try and bring Jag back by bringing them into racing. Now this has a manual gearbox, don't know if you can see inside, but Derek Bell drove this car to lead the race in 1976 at the Silverstone Tourist Trophy, and then the drive shaft failed, so he didn't actually manage to complete the race. But this was basically one of the saviours of Jaguar as a brand by bringing it back into racing and eventually back onto the roads. And we've got another record car with Jaguar in the shape of this XFR V8. So this was a bit of a publicity stunt to promote the Jaguar XFR. This managed to reach 225 miles per hour on the Bonneville Salt Flats, making it the fastest Jaguar ever. And the car to set the record before that was an XJ220, which reached around 217. This car was obviously fitted with a parachute. I don't know if that's still visible. You can see the downforce provider, and then there is the parachute. So it was before the XFR was on the market, so they called it the XFS V8, and that was positioned next door to the Jaguar XJR5. So this predates their famous XJR9 Le Mans cars. They were racing XJSs, and they planned to develop a mid-engine version of their V12 race cars. So kind of stemming from the XJS's V12, but in the middle of the car. This was obviously made after that Broadspeed over there, so they'd finally got independence from British Leyland, so they could produce this race car themselves as Jaguar in the Group 44 series. So they entered 2 of these in Le Mans, but neither of them finished. One of them crashed on lap 212, and then the other one retired with gearbox issues, but they returned to Le Mans in 1985, and one of them managed to finish in 13th place, which is actually the first time Jaguar had finished Le Mans at all since 1963. Now welcome to the Lightning GT. You might recognise the front fascia and the car as the Ronut Lightning that had a V8, and then the Lightning company decided that the future was not V8s and it was electric power. So this, from 2008, is the fully electric Lightning GT EV. Obviously with TVR being quite close to my heart, I can't not pay attention to this TVR Grand Tourer. So they had the MGA's B Series engine, straight for 1.6. Here is the original, one of the original TVR badges on this car, and then next door to that is the Caterham Aero 7. So in 2013 they decided they wanted to move away, or start giving customers an option away from their traditional Lotus 7 style car. And it's still got the same kind of general platform, you can see the shape. However, the design was not really taken very well by the audience. It was said to be quite flat on the top, obviously without a windscreen, so didn't end up becoming the next generation of Caterham. They continued with their Lotus 7 style cars after this. Cool to see it on display next to another Rover. But here's another Rover for you. This one obviously a Land Rover Series 2, designed in Scotland, derived from a Series 2 long wheelbase, but without wheels. It's got tracks, and obviously the front tracks can turn. I don't think they're quite turned at the moment. Driven by a sprocket on Land Rover's hubs, so I don't know if you can see the hubs there. So it's got the original hubs, but just has added tracks to it. But perhaps the best car in the collection is the Ford FAB1. So this was built for the live-action Thunderbirds film in 2004, and it was inspired by the Ford Thunderbird, rather fittingly. So Rolls-Royce obviously made the original FAB1 from Thunderbirds when they were actual puppets, but Rolls-Royce were too busy creating the Phantom at the time. They couldn't get involved with the project, so they went to Ford, who already had a Ford Thunderbird, and this actually has the same 280 horsepower V8 3.9 litre from the Ford Thunderbird. It's a Jaguar and Ford derived engine, and this is a fully custom made one-off car, and was also somehow road legal. So it's a two-seater, so obviously Parker sits up the front and Lady Penelope sits at the back, and all of this is genuinely drivable. Looks gorgeous with that wood. And to add to its drama, it's got twin axle front wheel steering, so all four of the front wheels do steer and maneuver this car around. Such a long bonnet for just a 2.9 litre V8. Let me come to another fondness of mine, because I think I had a Matchbox toy of this car as a kid, the Range Rover Range Stormer concept car. It's Land Rover's first ever concept car, powered by their supercharged V8 engine. It was actually their most powerful car at the time, and the doors are two-piece doors. So if you can imagine, this top half here opens up like a not gull-wing, but you know, dihedrally, and then this one opens more conventionally. So two-piece doors, why not? And only obviously a three-door car. And then around the rear, we've got this slightly smaller hatch of the Range Stormer versus the later Range Rovers that came afterwards. So almost 400 horsepower. And look at the details in the lights there. You might also recognise this car from Gran Turismo 4. It was a very well-known car in that series. The interior is equally as impressive. I'm trying to work out, is it like 4 pieces of wood that have been sculpted with maybe a thin layer of leather on top, individual with the central column there, and then the rear seats are the same as well, both separated by a central column. Apparently it cost 1.5 million to produce this concept. Personally, I'd have gone back to the future and maybe cut the costs a little bit. There are some movie and screen cars here with the Anglia and obviously Del Boy's car. But you now join me finally at the car that I think looks like could be in the Fallout universe. It was actually for another film, but this, as you can tell by the Land Rover hubcaps, is a Land Rover from 1995. So it was designed for the film, a Sylvester Stallone film, and I think this one was made just for interior shots, so it has a full interior. You've got the yellow bucket seats but the film was set in the third millennium, so it was meant to be a future Land Rover, but it was designed by Land Rover's own designers. So hidden underneath there is a 1970s Land Rover military vehicle, 101 inch, and they made 22 of these for the film. Here's a car with a bit of familiarity about it, but actually is something you've probably never seen before. This is the Delta E4 Coupe. It's got elements like, you know, McLaren 12C or the original Tesla. This is an electric car. It was developed to show how they can do long-range EV performance, but it's got a lightweight carbon composite structure, 0-60 in under 5 seconds, twin electric motors developed alongside Oxford University, and then Cosworth actually bought the brand in 2021. So it was just a showcase to see how they could get long-range EV by being lightweight, aerodynamic. The rear end is definitely more prototypey than the front end. But back to another favourite of mine, the TVR T400R. So this is the competition variant of their TVR Tuscan. Originally it was going to be called the TVR Tuscan R, but after they had the TVR T350 road-going model, they decided they should adapt that style of name and called it the T400 rather than the Tuscan R. Obviously inspired by maybe their Tuscan race cars that had a Rover V8, but this one has their 4-litre, 400 horsepower straight 6. 7 of these were produced, and this is the last car of TVRs to ever race at Le Mans. Now we mentioned the MGF earlier, and here we have a selection of MG land speed record cars, all attempts to create the fastest MG. Now in 1959, Phil Hill set the record for the fastest MG at 254.91 miles per hour, and then they later chose an MGF shape to try and beat that with a Rover V8 or a Janspeed engine based on the Rover V8. Andy Green, who was the Thrust SSC's pilot, was selected for the attempt, but unfortunately clutch problems on this car meant that they ran out of time. So the EX181's record remained, and the EX255 was never actually able to set a new record. But obviously based on the MGF's shape, these are used to kind of sell their road cars. That's why companies enter races like Le Mans in road-going looking cars to sell more cars, and that's why they use the shape of the MGF to attempt the land speed record. Now this is a sound and songs of the motor car section, so I'll try and keep my voice down a little bit, but the car that makes the most sense here is the Wells Vertige P2 prototype. Now actually there was one of these at the show, but it left before I could film it. This was made by an orchestral conductor, Robin Wells. He made the Wells car company. So this car has been inspired by musical pieces. They say that it's got introduction, the front end, then it crescendos over to the midsection, and then a conclusion, a sharp conclusion at the back, such as in a song. And the gear stick has been inspired by a conductor's baton, apparently. And whilst the shape of the car was inspired by the architecture of an orchestral piece, the exhaust has been inspired by the shape of the car. They say the exhaust note is a low frequency sound to match the shape of the car. So it all stems back to sound and orchestral noise, this car, the Wells. Now of course you couldn't have a room devoted to sound without having a sound build in the back of a max power car. So we have a Vauxhall Corsa B max power creation. I've actually seen this at various shows, including the reunion show, and this has recently been put on display in their sound section of the museum. I think it looks fantastic under these lights. So it's a celebration of max power, but also the massive sound systems that people would put in their cars in that same era. We got Lambo doors, of course, cherry red paintwork, the spoiler blended into that boot lid, and a Batman steering wheel as well with the custom leather interior. In fact, everything has been changed. I can't see any standard, maybe the trims around the windows, maybe they're standard, but everything else, rear lights, it's got twin pipes on the back, relocated number plates, obviously it's got a smooth boot lid as well, and then obviously the sound system taking up the full rear interior of the Corsa. And another musically inspired car. This was John Lennon's Rolls-Royce Phantom 5, which he had restored into white with white interior because they have the White Album as one of the Beatles albums. So it was quite an expensive project to restore this in white, but it was purely because their album at the time was the White Album. He thought it'd be good to be seen driving around in a white Rolls Royce. Let me know in the comments, what do you listen to in the car? Radio, podcast, music, or nothing? There we go. But we've walked out of the museum and are heading back to the car. So that was the British Motor Museum. Hope you've learned a little bit about British motoring history and seen some concept and prototype vehicles that I absolutely love. When I was a kid, I had a Bebo page, and I had quite a popular concept cars Bebo page. I don't know if it was like a Facebook page, but same kind of thing. And I've always loved concept cars, and I hope to see even more in the collection centre over there. There's a Jaguar section, and then there's another British section on the top floor. But that's enough for this video, because that was the PistonHeads Sunday Service, of which most cars have left. So we'll see what turns up at Adams Seafest on the 3rd of May this year. Get your tickets down in the video description and your waifu with my discount as well. But I hope you enjoyed today's video. But for now, thanks for watching.